We are here at the coach's office with my special guest, Caden. You want to introduce yourself real fast, Caden?
Yeah, everyone. My name's Caden Kainalu. I'm a friend of Tim's. We go back working together for the last 2 years, but mainly I would say our friendship is based in sports betting. I flood our text chain with probably too many parlays at this point, but excited to get going today.
And we're about to get on a heater here. So we'll kind of get right into it. So there's obviously a big slate of games this weekend for college football. Actually, already started tonight. Saw Texas State was blowing out somebody. It was like 38-17.
Ooh.
But there's some other games that I want to kind of highlight, and I'm sure you've got a handful of games that you want to highlight, and specific lines. Now, there's one game in particular that I think everybody is completely overlooking because it's Ohio State and Iowa. And I think obviously Ohio State's offense is absolutely incredible. And so far this season, they've played really good football. And Iowa still continues, even though their head coach fired his own son from being the offensive coordinator. The offense still isn't great, but their time of possession is actually fairly above average. They're averaging, mid 35, 36 minutes a game. And part of that is because they're running the football more than everybody else in college football, besides Navy,
Mhm.
Army, Air Force. Um, but it's plus 18 and a half right now. The line yesterday was 20 and a half. So it's moving
Mhm.
down towards for Iowa. I still like plus 18 and a half just because if Iowa starts out with the football, there is a good possibility. Number one, they could go 3-and-out. I hope that doesn't happen. But there's also a possibility that they take 8 minutes off the clock. And I know Ohio State's offense can score at warp speed, just like Alabama, just like Ole Miss. But if Iowa is allowed to play the game at their pace and take Ohio State kind of force them to take the foot off the gas, I think Iowa could easily cover this game. What do you think?
Yeah, I was looking at this line too, and I was thinking the same thing. And what it brought me back to, I think it was, and I'm pulling it scheduled now just to make sure I don't get the team wrong. I believe it was Ohio State was playing in a non-conference game, and what I think they are is they are definitely a second half team, but they need time in order to score for that offense to be productive. But I think people can, jump out early on them if they can, kind of stifle that offense or throw them off rhythm. And I think the game, as I'm looking at it now, I think it was week 3. And it was Ohio State. Oh, I'm missing it. But they had someone, it was a non-conference game, and I think it was against Marshall.
Okay.
I think Marshall jumped out early in the first quarter. I myself failed because I bet that Ohio State would cover minus 10 in the first quarter.
Yep.
That did not happen. It was 7-7 early, and what I saw was you know that Howard the quarterback needed some time to figure it out, right? And I think it was early on in the season still, but I agree with you that Iowa knows this Ohio State team, and I think they're going to script some things up early on to milk the clock because they know we can't outscore these guys, but we definitely can slow them down. And it's going to be like walking in molasses in January. Like it's going to be a slow first half. And it's
Yep.
a battle of attrition to see who can last the longest or who blinks first. And so I agree with you. I would definitely look at taking Iowa on that line because I don't think Ohio State's going to score enough points to cover.
100%. And the other thing with it, it's kind of given me, I think it was 2019 Indiana Ohio State vibes when Michael Penix was at Indiana and Indiana was like 24 and a half point underdogs and they were tied going into the fourth quarter. And it was
Yeah.
like 28-28 or something like that. And then Ohio State ended up pulling away by 2 scores or whatever because Michael Penix threw a pick, something like that. But it's completely given me that same. I don't want to call it a trap game because I don't think Iowa wins. But I would definitely take that 18 and a half right now. Um, Next game that I got personally that I think is kind of stealing money right now is Missouri and Texas A&M.
Okay.
So I know Texas A&M somehow is shockingly favored. They have been such a streaky offense. Defense is good. Mike Elko, I mean, you got to give it to him. As a Duke supporter, Mike Elko completely changed Duke's defense after David Cutcliffe had retired a couple years ago. Goes back to A&M, and he's got the defense rolling. Offense, not great. But Missouri, I mean, I get it. They're going into A&M, but the fact that they're underdogs, I mean, that is stealing money. So I would take Missouri money line. I think they're going to win outright. I don't really
Ooh,
think it's going to be much of a game, and not because A&M's defense is going to struggle. I think it's just A&M's offense is going to put their defense in such bad situations, similar to what happened with Duke and Notre Dame, where Notre Dame's starting at A&M's 40-yard line and doesn't have to go and travel an entire field, right? So I
right.
think we're going to see the similar thing with Missouri. Also, I mean, Missouri's got a pretty solid quarterback. And I think that's going to be really the difference between these two teams. What do you think?
Yeah, I looked at this too, and I feel like the line is a little bit fraudulent. I think it's some home cooking. It's just like they're banking on College Station's going to be rocking, and it's going to be a tough place to go. But I agree with you. I think from what I've seen so far in the season, I haven't watched a lot of Missouri games, but I feel like the Vegas isn't the Vegas is trying to trap some betters into making some like they think what they think is an easy pick. And I agree with you. I think SEC football is never this big of a gap, never this big of a line. And I definitely think there's room for upset. And I could see Missouri coming out with the W.
Yep. And so, kind of shuffling away from the SEC here, going to the ACC side of things.
Ooh.
My last game that I'm really highlighting is Louisville SMU. Now, I think there's going to be a million points scored in this football game. Like, it could be like the game tonight where, the Buccaneers and the Falcons are putting up a million points right in the first quarter. We could see the same thing with Louisville SMU. SMU early on in the season had some quarterback issues, struggled against, I believe it was Nevada, benched their quarterback who was like 17th in the Heisman preseason hopeful, whatever. And everybody was saying that he's going to be a Heisman candidate by the end of the year. He's benched. They went with the young kid, and I don't know the name off the top of my head. But Louisville at home is -6.5. And right now, the way that Louisville's offense is cooking, obviously they lost against Notre Dame, but it was a very quality loss. And honestly, that game could have gone either way, right? Notre Dame ended up pulling it off in the end of the fourth quarter there with the field goal to win the game.
Mm-hmm.
But Tyler Shook coming off the broken leg is absolutely balling. And I know
Yeah.
Tyler personally. He's an Arizona guy. So I got to stick with my Arizona guys, and he's the last one that's starting right now. So I'm taking Louisville to cover -6.5. Again, it could kind of go either way just because if SMU's offense shows up like it has the past couple weeks, Louisville's defense could be in for a very long night. But I mean, on the flip side, it's the same thing. Louisville's offense can score at a very high pace. So not only would I like the -6.5, but I would take the over. And I might even
Mm.
sprinkle the first half over because, like I said, that first quarter specifically, there could be 40 points scored.
Yeah. Yeah. I saw that too. And I was like, it seems like it's gonna be a gunfight, right? It's given the same energy when we had that Rams Kansas City Monday Night Football game
Yep.
where no defense. Let's just play ball. Like it's 11-0. Like
Yep.
just throw the ball and see who can score the most in 60 minutes. And so definitely I would go with the over on that. And I see Louisville hanging on for the win. And I think they'll cover because I don't think there'll be a lot of field goals and a lot of like it's gonna be once they blow it open the fourth, I think they're gonna win by at least 2 scores.
Right. Now, do you so those are kind of my really games that I want to highlight personally. Do you have any games yourself that you think are easy money, we'll say?
So, for everyone out there, I'm from Vegas. I'm a desert rat through and through. And my Rebels, not the running Rebels, but the Rebels of UNLV, are playing Syracuse this week, coming off a huge statement win against Fresno State, who they haven't beaten in 3 years. The seniors on this team have never beaten Fresno State until last week. And I think they're going to ride that momentum coming on the back of also the quarterback controversy that everyone heard about. And I think the 6.5 line that Vegas has given their home team against Syracuse is free money. Take it, because they are going to pop Syracuse in the mouth. Syracuse is not going to know what hit them when they come into Allegiant Stadium on Saturday. Actually, Friday night they moved into primetime. So I think that's free money. Take the Rebels. They're going to win by at least 2 scores, and they're going to show the world why they deserve to be ranked and potentially be in the playoff by the end of this year.
Yeah, I like that. I honestly think UNLV could slip into one of those playoff spots, 10, 11, 12 seed, whatever it may be. Yeah, the real loser out of the whole UNLV thing is the quarterback, Sluka, that decided to leave. I mean, the guy was completing less than 50% of his passes. Now, great runner, but this kid that was the backup who was from, was it Campbell?
Yeah,
the Campbell Camels. Just comes in and just lights up the scoreboard. And it's like, maybe it necessarily wasn't the quarterback. And it was, what's his name? Mannion, the OC.
It's the go-go genius.
Yeah, the go-go offense. Absolutely incredible. No, I like that a lot. What's Syracuse's quarterback? Was the Ohio State transfer, correct?
Yeah. So it's his name is escaping me. McCord.
Yes. Was it Kyle?
Kyle McCord. Yep.
Yeah. See, I really like Kyle McCord. But I think you're right. You're nailing it. I mean, UNLV's got so much momentum with this new quarterback coming in. And I think there was a lot of uncertainty surrounding UNLV last week with, is this kid going to be any good? And then they had a running back that left too. It was like their third string running back or whatever. And I think just so much uncertainty surrounding UNLV was, all those, the whispers and everything was completely washed away with the performance that they put on offensively this past week. And honestly, I don't see UNLV losing a game this season.
Boise is going to be the only test. And it just depends if Jainty is still running like Derrick Henry, then it'll be a fight. And our defense is good. It's solid. I just think they give up some big plays. Jainty is, if Travis Hunter is not a real human, then I think it's anyone. If it's not Travis Hunter, the Heisman should go to Jainty, in my opinion.
You think Travis wins the Heisman?
If he keeps his clip, he doesn't get hurt. He's going both ways. He's playing 100 snaps a game, and they're winning, and they make a playoff. That's another team that their win against UCF was impressive, and I could see them maybe not winning the Big 12, but getting an at-large bid potentially.
Now, don't quote me on this, but I think Colorado is favored in the rest of their games.
I would say that sounds right, maybe except for Utah, which I think is their last game of the regular season.
I think that's the one that I was missing.
But Utah could also be shutting it down based on how they showed up last week, and if Cam Rising has no timeline.
Yeah, give him another year, his 8th year of eligibility. I mean,
you would think he played at BYU.
What's that?
You would think he'd play at BYU by the time he graduates.
Yeah, no kidding. I mean, that's just, we're going on a tangent here real fast, but
yeah,
these quarterbacks, not just quarterbacks in general. McCormick, the tight end from, was it Miami? Mm-hmm. The guy played with Justin Herbert, caught passes from Justin Herbert. Like, what is happening to college football? Like,
those COVID years, man. Yeah. COVID years, redshirt years. It's crazy.
Yeah, we've got 26-year-old juniors on the field. Like, what are we doing? And then now we've got guys that are playing 3 and 4 games and are deciding to opt out the rest of the season because there's a chance that you don't make the playoff or whatever, or you could go from a UCF to a Florida situation. It's wild to me. And I think in part is, the NIL, which I think the NIL is great, but there should probably be a little bit of a regulation on it of some sort. I don't know what that is.
Maybe we should make contracts. Maybe we should standardize agreements and maybe unionize the players.
Probably not a bad idea. That way we don't have these situations going on where it's like, oh, half the team just transferred because we lost one game.
That was crazy. It's crazy to think that week 3 in college football, or week 4 in college football, is going to be the trade deadline moving forward.
Yeah. Like that's literally what just happened. It's like, oh, we're 2-2, got a 2% chance to make the playoff. Well, I'll save my senior season and I'm going to transfer to somewhere else next year.
What are we doing? Though, I think with the 12-team playoff, though, 2-2 is not the end of your season.
No, especially if you're in a SEC, one of the big four conferences.
Yeah,
I mean, you win out and you make your conference championship or whatever. Who cares if you lost 2 early games?
correct. If they were non-conference games too, if you run the table in your conference, who
Right.
cares?
Right.
Who
Now
cares?
the only difference would be like Notre Dame because they don't play a conference championship.
You just pick the team with the hardest uphill battle. That's on you.
But do you have any other matchups you like?
Staying on the West Coast. The game that I saw this line, and I didn't text you about this earlier, but I saw it later, and I was like, "What is going on?" And it's Michigan plus 2.5 at Washington, and I'm like, "This UW team is not last year's UW team. It's a rematch," and I still think Michigan has a chip on their shoulder defensively, and offense may not be the same. It may not be the same offense, right? But you've got Edwards in the backfield. Like they could score points. They took a
100%.
USC team down to the wire and beat them.
Yep.
Like UW is not that special to me. And so I think if you're looking at a game on primetime on Saturday night, I would take Michigan plus 2.5. Heck, I would take the money line at
Okay.
least.
Okay.
Because I think the Wolverines are still a pedigree team. They are a blue chip program, and I think UW is in a rebuild. They've just gotten lucky the last few weeks. I don't think they're the same team, and I think even if it's in Husky Stadium, Michigan's going to show up and pop them in the mouth.
I like it. It doesn't happen very often, but I'm going to have to go the other way on this one. This was one of the ones that I was looking at too. And on the surface, I was like, there's no way Michigan should be an underdog. And I get it. Michigan hasn't performed necessarily the best on offense. You look at the game against Texas, right? But then you go and look at, USC with, was it Alex Orji starting? The offense looked good. Not,
Yep.
It didn't look like JJ McCarthy or anything like that. But then I kind of did a little bit of deep dive on this game. So Michigan against teams, now I get this only, 5 games into the season, 4 games into the season. Michigan against teams that have a top 35 run defense is 0-1 this year. The only team they played with a top 35 run defense is Texas. Washington is 35.
Okay, but see the gap from Texas to Washington.
Texas is 25th.
Only 25th?
Yeah.
Interesting.
I know. I was shocked too. I'm looking at the statistics and I was like, it's a difference of, I think it's like 11.2 yards between 25th and 35th.
Really?
And I'm like, sure, 11 yards is another first down. That's running out the clock. Yeah, that could happen. But I have not watched a lot of Washington. I will preference that. But okay. I did watch the Washington State game. And Will Rogers is a dude. He is an absolute dude.
Yep.
And I get Michigan's defense is really good. I'm going to go ahead and say that whoever gets the 20 points first in this game is going to win. And I do like the Michigan minus 2.5. Like, you're on the road, shouldn't be an underdog because you're Michigan. But at the same time, if somebody said, "Hey, I'm going to take Washington Washington minus 2.5," I'd say, you know what? I could go along with that. So this one, I'm still torn. I like where you're coming from. The issue with Michigan is they don't have a good quarterback. Dave Portnoy needs to step up and pay $3 million for a quarterback. I mean, that's what's going to bring Michigan back to being, a top 5 team in the country. You know what I mean?
Hey, if they want Matthew Sluka, he's on the market.
He is. I don't think he would cost $3 million. Maybe about $4 or $5 grand.
See, what I would do if I was Dave Portnoy is go get a $500K quarterback and then like a $750K wide receiver. That would be going to Ohio State, but you just give them more money than Ohio State's giving them.
Yeah, you need to get the 17-year-old that is reclassifying. That's who you need to find.
That's a whole other thing. Did you hear, by the way, he's Serena Williams' cousin?
I saw the tweet and I just could not believe it. I said, of course. It just runs in the family.
Just good genes.
Yep. I mean, good for him.
Okay, so we are agreeing to disagree on the Michigan-Washington game.
Yes, but I can see where you're coming from.
Yeah, I think I'm going with you're getting analytical with it, and I love it because your analysis is
Yep.
needed, your IQ is needed. I'm just saying in my gut, that just feels insulting to
You're
not take
taking
Michigan.
you're taking the Dan Campbell route. I'm taking the Nick Sirianni route. Now we'll see what happens, but we're gonna make it a good time. The Nick Sirianni route. Might piss everybody off, but worth it.
Got you to a Super Bowl. It got you to a Super Bowl.
Yeah, yeah, and might lose my hair by the end of this season if we keep having these close losses or close
You,
wins. I'll take a close win any day of the week.
we can't do that. You can't lose that hair. That hair is iconic.
Yeah. Do you have any other? Whoa, hello. Do you have any other matchups? Wow, English is hard.
It's a tough language. Okay, so one line that I texted you about Minnesota USC. USC is -8. I'm taking Minnesota +8
I
as the
like it.
dog because the way Minnesota showed up against Michigan last week in the big house for 3 quarters was impressive. And I think if they apply that same level of pressure on the road again in better weather, in a new stadium, into a team at USC that I think is still figuring out what its identity is, right? I think Minnesota's going to cover. I don't think they win, but I do think they cover and they keep it close.
I mean, at the end of the day, USC's Achilles heel is their defense. Minnesota doesn't have a good offense. We'll just say
No.
it like it is. They don't have a good offense, but they have an efficient enough quarterback that he's going to essentially manage the game. He's not going to force balls. He's not going to turn over the football. And that's scary if you're USC, because where USC has done well at times this season is when they're able to force quarterbacks to throw picks or force fumbles and all that kind of stuff. They don't get that. I mean, I don't think we're going to see a track meet by any means, but it could be a situation where USC's up 21-17 with a couple minutes left in the game. I think Minnesota will have a couple big plays on offense. They still have a really good run game. That team is built from the offensive line out. Receivers are average, quarterbacks average, but their run game is pretty solid. And like we said, USC's defense, specifically their front seven, below average. We'll just tell it like it is. It's below average. So I think we'll see, Minnesota's offensive line kind of dominating the game early on. And I'm sure USC, because they've got some good coaches, they'll make some adjustments. But I do like that +8. And I'm shocked that it's so high, especially with their performance against Michigan. I mean, they're one onside kick away from potentially winning that football game.
Exactly.
And it's a debatable offsides or whatever they call it, because there was no offsides. But that's besides the point.
I also think we have to give credit where credit's due to PJ Fleck.
Yep.
He could be a championship level coach at a Blues chip program, but he has chosen to stay at Minnesota and grind it out. And I think he is one of the best football minds we have in college football today.
I think that's fair. I would also say that if he had an NFL coach comparison, it is 100% Jeff Fisher. You know what you're getting out of him.
Yep.
It's not going to be a Super Bowl, and it's not going to be a losing season. You're going to get 6-6 to 8-4.
Yeah.
That's just, and at Minnesota, they're okay with that.
Yep.
They're not expecting to win championships in football.
Nope.
They're not yes, they're in Minneapolis or whatever, but they're not an area that's, known for football for college, at least. And they're okay with winning 8 games and making it close against Penn State and Michigan of the world and finishing somewheres in the middle of the Big Ten. That's okay with them. And you know what? That's okay, and he's going to be there probably the rest of his life, because I don't want to say it's a comfortable job, but it is. You finish above 500, you have 100% job security.
Yeah, exactly. And I think he's a great game manager. He's a gamesman. And I think I like that because he knows how to pull out some tough wins, or at least make the favorite sweat a little bit.
Yep.
So that's why if it was +5.5, I would maybe think the other way. But +8 is a lot of points to leave on the board for Minnesota.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, obviously it's two scores, but I don't see USC winning by two scores. I mean, you look
No,
at all their
not
games
enough.
this year have been close.
All of them.
Yeah,
Like this is not the Caleb Williams era where they have the ability to go score 56 points.
yeah.
It's a different time. It's not. Lincoln Riley has to recover post Caleb Williams and
Right,
rediscover himself.
right. He's got to retool, and I mean, like I said, USC still got a good offense, but it's
Yep.
not. It's not this, dynamic 500, 600-yard offense a game kind of thing. They're becoming more methodical.
Yep.
And I think we're seeing that more in college football. Now, obviously, you have guys that are kind of reinventing things that are, putting up a million yards. I think of Josh Heupel, number one at Tennessee.
Yeah.
I mean, let's just put our receivers on the sideline and just huck it to them. Like, what are we doing? It works, but what are we doing? And then obviously you have the reemergence of Chip Kelly at Ohio State. He's doing some incredible stuff there. Shout out Chip Kelly, go Birds. Yeah, no, I mean, I think that's going to be a really entertaining game to watch, which is shocking talking about Minnesota being entertaining, but here we are.
I was going to say, it's about NFL comparison. We talk about PJ Fleck. I think on the other side, I think Lincoln Riley is tooling up to either be, I wouldn't say Sean McVay. I think he's going to be Kyle Shanahan.
Okay.
And I say that in terms of he's going to get the right personnel to fit the new version of like the air raid offense, like 3.0, I would call it. And I think it's going to be methodical. I think you're going to get multi like positionless football from your skilled position players. And I think he's going to bring that to college in a way that we haven't seen. And I think it's going to be reminiscent of the Chip Kelly and Oregon days, where it's like, what is this? How do we stop this? And I think it's going to be field balanced in terms of having like a McCaffrey type running back mixed with strong, speedy receivers who can also get physical. But I think it's going to take it's going to take a beat before they get to that point.
For sure. All right, we've got about 10 minutes left here. Do you have any other lines that you really like?
No, those are the lines I really liked. I mean, other recommendation for those out there, I would say look at Pitt money line. I think I hailed Pitt. I think they're always a streaky team, but I do think that they can pull it out against UNC this weekend.
Now, I didn't tell you this, but that Pitt West Virginia game, I completely forgot that you told me that you had Pitt winning, and I went West Virginia. So when you're texting me, oh, hail to Pitt or whatever, I'm like, yep, sure. I just have this weird obsession over West Virginia's quarterback. I think he's so good when he's really not. His last name's Green, I think. I don't even know what his name is. But he reminds me of Baker Mayfield at Oklahoma. Okay. And like any quarterback that wears 6 that looks like Baker Mayfield, it's just instantly I'm like, all right, I'm a fan. Like I think of Wyoming's quarterback last year. I don't even know if he's still there. But the guy down to the socks was copying Baker Mayfield's style. And I'm like, I'm all for this.
But it's like Raiola copying Mahomes.
Yes. Which that's going to be a topic of discussion for another day. Yeah. He's literally got the jump down to science, like his pregame jump and everything. The only thing he's missing is the Kermit the Frog voice, and that's about it.
And Brittany, he's missing a Brittany.
That is
apparently true. Though he has the brother. He's got a Jackson.
Does he really?
Apparently so.
Oh my goodness.
What is the world coming to?
I mean, you got to respect the hustle at least. I mean, you want people to talk about you? Go be like Patrick Mahomes.
Be fake Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah. But so on top of the lines that we had, we've got a couple games here that I've kind of highlighted and I've shared with you just straight up winners that we have. Now there's going to be 4 games that we got here, and we'll start with the one that College Game Day's at right now. We got Miami and Cal. Who do you think is going to win?
Give me the U. Give me the U. Cam Ward is a dog, and I love that kid, and I want him to thrive, and I want him to be the second quarterback taken post Shedeur, so I'm going Miami.
Yep, I'm sticking with you on this one. I don't know why this is the College Game Day game of the week or whatever they have. This is a bad football game. This is a really bad football game.
Excuse to get Marshawn on the dais or whatever to make picks.
If Marshawn Lynch doesn't come out of the tunnel in one of the
The golf
trainer
carts.
carts. He's not on one of the trainer carts. I don't ever want to watch another college game day segment ever. I'm taking Miami. I don't think it's
Okay.
close. This is like
Yeah.
a 40-10 kind of game.
Yeah.
Cam Ward's just way too good.
Yeah.
Um,
He's insane. Like,
yeah.
I watched him last year at Wazoo, but I'm like, he just gets better. And I think it's whatever trainer that him and Shador went to is a dude. Like, he knows what he's doing.
100%. And don't get me wrong, though. Fernando Mendoza, Cal's quarterback, he's okay. He's not Aaron Rodgers. And he's not Cam Ward. He's okay. But it's just, okay, we'll get you 10 points against Miami. That's all I'm giving you. So I'm glad we're on the same one here.
Yeah.
Next one. Now I'm going to be biased with my pick. I'm just warning everybody. Duke, Georgia Tech. Who you got?
With Yellow Jackets.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, give me the Yellow Jackets. I think, and I know this is going to hurt your soul even more, but I think the way they showed up in week one, I think even though they've lost, they're 3-2 right now. I still think that they are a team to be reckoned with, and I know Duke's coming in undefeated. But I still see Georgia Tech pulling this one out handedly.
Yeah. Well, based off of my reaction, obviously I'm going the other way. Georgia Tech, Florida State, that was Georgia Tech's Super Bowl. That was, if they didn't win another game all year, that was the one that they cared about. And they're 3-2, like you said, right now. They're 1-2 in the last three. I just think Manny Diaz is just put Duke football to a completely different level. And my jokes of, oh, yeah, I think Duke's going to go to the college football playoff are legitimate now. You're 5-0. First time being 5-0 since 1994. Right now, Clemson's struggling. Nobody really in the ACC is playing great football outside of Duke. Duke has the inside track to win the ACC conference. That's a hot take. And Miami.
We just talked about Miami. Okay.
Miami. But outside of Miami, Duke's right there. And that incredible comeback that they had against UNC, down 20-0, and you come back and win.
Yeah.
Manny Diaz has the boys rolling, and it continues on another week. We're 6-0. I'm taking Duke.
All right. We'll see.
The third matchup we've got here, we've got Rutgers and Nebraska. A matchup of two former NFL head coaches, and Greg Schiano and Matt Rule. Who do you got here?
I hate to say this because I'm not the biggest Matt Rule fan, but I do think Nebraska is going to pull this one. I think they're going to bounce back. I think they're going to take this one. I know Rutgers played well last week, but I got to take Nebraska. I'm going to go with the Huskers.
I like it. I've been a big supporter in Greg Schiano. I don't think any other coach could win at Rutgers except for Greg Schiano, and that is a proven track record over the past 15 years. Rutgers has been really bad for some reason. I don't know if Greg Schiano has a bad guy or whatever. He gets recruits to come, and those recruits perform extremely well. I think it's going to be tough for Rutgers, given that you're playing at Nebraska. That's a tough place to play. I mean, we saw what happened with Colorado, and I think Colorado's a good team. And it was just the perfect storm of bad things happening. If Rutgers starts with the football, they're winning the game. I'm just saying it right now. If they start with the football, they're winning the game.
But so the coin toss determines the game. The
coin toss determines this football game. You're Rutgers. You take the ball, you're going to score. Not like what Matt Hasselbeck said. This is what Rutgers is doing. They're taking the ball, they're going to score. I'm taking Rutgers. I think it's going to be a rock fight. I think it's going to be similar to how Rutgers played their game this past week. There's going to be a lot of turnovers, I think. That's just how Rutgers plays, and Nebraska thrives on pressuring the quarterback. So I wouldn't be surprised if there's 3-4 turnovers in this game. But I'm going Rutgers. So we're deviating a couple of different ways here now. And we've already talked about this last one, Michigan, Washington.
Yeah. And through our conversation, you made some very excellent points. And I don't have a dog in this race.
I like that.
But I do have the Wolverine in this race. So I'm taking Michigan.
Nice. Yeah, that's good. Well, as Dan Campbell over here, you've got Dan Campbell taking the Wolverines. Nick Sirianni, if you like Nick Sirianni, which is about three people, including myself, I'm going Washington. Like I said, Michigan 0-1 against teams in the top 35. Now it's a for sure skewed stats. You can make stats skewed all you want, and that's 100% what I did because I could have done teams in the top 25. Washington
Yeah.
doesn't count. Um, that's how you make the stat look good.
It's you
Um,
make the numbers tell your story.
exactly, and that's exactly the case with this game. And I've got Washington. You've got Michigan. So the only one that we're agreeing on is
Miami.
Miami and Cal. And I just said 10 minutes ago that we usually agree on everything. So it's going to be fun watching these four matchups, and then obviously the rest of college football this weekend. We've got about a minute left here. Do you have any hot takes, wild predictions for the NFL games on Sunday?
Justin Fields is going to throw for 350 plus yards against the Dallas defense.
I
He's
love it.
going to lock up the QB1 job and just silence any speculation. And that's going to be the domino that then sends Russell Wilson to either Miami or Vegas. And we
Okay.
are going to land a wide receiver one in either
Okay.
Devontae Adams or Jalen Waddle in the next 2 weeks.
I
But
like
it's
it.
going to start with Dallas. It has to be the Sunday night game. Justin Fields is going to go off on Sunday night.
I like it. My hot take is the Eagles aren't going to lose this week. They're on a bye. So I think mine will end up for sure happening, hopefully. Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
But we're about out of time here. So thanks, Caden, for coming on. And if you want to come on any other times, just let me know. It was fun.
Always love an invite to the coach's office. Thank you, Tim.
Yes, sir. All right. With that being said, peace, everybody.
See ya.